12:30.
What's going on, world? We back with another episode of Raponomics Podcast. I'm Larry Miller. Look at you, all aggressive today.
Fresh off the plane from Paris.
By the time this come out, it'll be like 3 months ago.
Hey, y'all, Shauna Reed.
All right, and we are here today with a special guest. No, it's not Wendy, but we have one of our favorite people in this industry.
In real life.
The rap juggernaut himself.
What's happening, everybody?
The promo Vatican. Kingpin. Woo!
He brought his beautiful wife, too. She's behind the camera.
Shout out to the wife.
We have Mrs. Penn here. We got producer Blaine in the building.
Thank you, Blaine. He saved our
Blaine
life.
been doing stuff behind the scenes, but he's in the room with us today.
Right.
Yeah, I seen Blaine walking out to get some cords, and I had to ask, who was that master? So shout out to Blaine for coming through and staying today, man.
Blaine makes everything work.
So, Raponomics.
So Raponomics, let's get into it. So as you know, we focus on the business of rap. That's what we do here. And today we're going to talk about street teams and street promoters. That's why we brought the king of the streets.
I appreciate it. Humble. Thank you very much.
We know you've heard of him.
We know you have.
We do a little bit of getting around. You guys might have heard. It's the beard. If they recognize
It's the
anything,
beard.
it's the
It's
beard.
what it
Right.
Yeah, they recognize the beard.
So
And the hard work.
We're going to focus on the streets, but I know you do a lot of things, and I don't want to shortchange you. So real quickly, just talk about your company and all the services that you offer, and let's just go through it.
A to Z services, artrevsoul.com. We offer A to Z artist services, label services. Street team is what started it all, and it's what ultimately led to where we are now, trying to figure out, how is it that we weren't connecting? Where was the disconnect at? And then that caused us to dig deeper, and then the pandemic came and it made everybody sit down.
Right.
So when everybody had to sit down, I was somebody that was on the road 15, 20 days out the month for years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to abruptly stop.
Yeah.
And that kind of forced us to rethink our business model, if you will. And then in the midst of that, it gave us time for research,
Right.
which what led us to some of the different things that we do. So we do market visits, DJ liaison, record servicing. If you could think it, we can make it happen.
Nice.
Is there a favorite part of all of that you do? Like, what's your favorite part?
It all works together. If the one thing that the most joy I get out of all is the satisfaction of completion, is watching something done, is looking at something like, I like to, don't call me and tell me you want to start a business if you're not ready to start it and get off the phone. Like, okay, are you pulling up?
From A to Z.
Right. Like, if you're not ready to do this right now, why did you call and interrupt my flow? You know what I was doing. So I think seeing it through the very end. So the completion process is that gratification. Kind of like people that love construction, they love to build things.
Right.
And people that love to design and musicians love to write or some love to perform. Right. I love the completion of the process.
Nice. So let's go back to the beginning. So you're from Florida.
Born and raised.
So what got you interested in this industry? I know you tried a couple things and kind of landed in street teams. So just talk about your story.
It's funny. I was a prison baby, which is what led all of this, right? I was in the penitentiary. I turned 18 and 21 in the chain gang. And, sitting around and everybody telling jailhouse stories of what we wanted to do when we got out. And one of my cellmates, his name was Zake. He used to rap all the time. And, he used to tell me how he was going to be big. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to own a club, man. I'm going to book you, and we're going to be, we're going to make millions. And so then I got out, and the real world hit me in the face, and there was no time for that shit.
Right.
So I, started working different jobs. I had a job at a warehouse and blase squaze. My younger brother came to live with me. One of his friends came home from school and was like, look, man, can you look at this contract for me? I'm scared to take it to my parents. And I was like, I don't know how to read contracts, but I have common sense, and I know you're not supposed to sign nothing that's blank.
Right.
So I was mentioning it in a conversation to one of my coworkers, and another one of my coworkers walked in who also happened to be an artist. I was like, you know anything about the rap business? I was like, no, I've been listening to it my whole life. So I'm a rapper, and which led to a whole other conversation, and he invited me to the studio, which coincidentally was like 5 blocks from my house at the time. So we went after work. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I was there in the studio till the next day till like 8 or 9 o'clock. So I got bit by the bug.
Okay.
So I tried to figure out, what are the different things that I could do to help this person out. I didn't know anything about the music business. Never went to school. Never, didn't have no friends in the industry. I was green to it. And these were the MySpace days. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, whoever was in your top 8 was cool, and you had to learn codes and how to change your background. So, all of those things happened when I came home from prison.
I had somebody that run my MySpace for me because I couldn't figure out the code and things.
Oh, no, listen. That's what I was getting ready to say. Like, all of this stuff, everything that I've been able to do now was because what I tried to learn when I got out of prison.
Right.
I learned where the system restore function was on a computer. And the minute they taught me that, I became bold. I downloaded every program I could. I was, me and my wife were joking the other day that I have no patience to go to a classroom and sit there and hear a professor lecture
Right.
about what needs to get done, but I can watch the same fucking YouTube video 20 fucking times
YouTube
until I
University.
figure it out.
Yeah.
And then once I figure it out, I'm like, ooh, that's how you did it, right?
Mhm.
So I'm, Florida is what started it. Shout out to Grizzly Adam, shout out to Lala Sound, shout out to Drac, the Drag Boys, Lord Drac, and those are all the guys that I originally started with. Shout out to Tom G, Bigger Rank, and all these people. These are all people that when I got in the game, they embraced me for one reason or another, and it what ultimately led for me to be able to be the Kingpin or the rap juggernaut, if you will, was the relationships that I was able to build along the way. It's funny. This is my first legitimate podcast interview, right?
Oh, really?
Rewinded back to the
Ours
first
too.
time I ever interviewed somebody. I interviewed Wendy Day.
Oh, wow.
That was the first time I had ever interviewed anybody, and it was because I met a pimp at a music conference.
I love that story. I don't know if that's podcast appropriate, but
Right.
I love that story.
I met a pimp at a music conference, and this pimp had just came off of 60 Minutes, did his life story, and he became friends with Wendy. And he had a website, and he was like, "Hey man, I want you to interview. I don't know anything about the rap industry or this woman.
Right.
You seem to know everything, and that's my first time ever going to a music conference." So the first time ever going to a music conference, I got plugged in with Wendy Day, got plugged in with Chuck T, got plugged in with Bigger Rank and Tony Neo, Janiro Hawkins.
Wow.
It was like all those people I met at
You
that
were meant
very
to be
first
there.
one,
That's all I was about to say.
and never looked back. So
Yeah.
shout out to those humble beginnings, I guess.
That's awesome. So how'd you end up in Atlanta?
I came up to do Street Team, and it was like we were up here for a 2-week campaign. It was right before the BET Awards, and like 6 days into it, I was like, you know what? Everybody's always telling me that I've capped out where I lived at in Florida.
Yeah.
That it was time for me to expand. So while I was up here, I was like, let me see if I can find something.
Right.
And made a couple phone calls, and then finally found the house like on my 8th or 9th day here. Found the house to go look at. Pulled up to the house, and it had my name Mark was on the corner. It was on Mark Drive. I was like,
Wow. Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
so okay, cool. I set up the appointment to meet the realtor, the leasing office people, whatever it is, to go fill out the application and give them the check and all this stuff. And when I get there, the guy's like, "Let me ask you a question. Is this your email address?" And I was like, "Yeah." He turned his computer on. He's like, "I've been getting your email blast for 10 years, bro. I'm a DJ as well."
Oh, wow.
He's like, "You don't need any of that shit. Man. This is where you want to live at. You're gonna live here, bro."
Nice.
So I signed the lease. I went and I told the client, I said, "Hey, when we leave back tomorrow, I need you guys to drop me off at the rental car place, at the U-Haul truck place." So we drove back from Atlanta. I got dropped off there, picked up the U-Haul truck, called two of my partners. They met me in my house. We loaded everything up and drove back the same night.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
that's how I moved to Atlanta.
Yeah.
There's never a right time. Opportunity presented itself,
Right.
and
You gotta take it.
whatever you do with the opportunity that's given is what's ultimately going to determine how far you get in whatever it is in life.
Awesome. So let's talk about street teams. For those who don't know, what exactly is a street team? What do they do? It's kind of
An army of the willing. The street team is typically the first line of defense. So whenever most people in a non-digital age, in a traditional age, most people are they get street product from the streets. So whether it's hand-to-hand physical distribution, giving out T-shirts or flyers or stickers or a mask, and these day and ages, or back in the days it was cassettes and CDs and all kinds of different stuff. To now having a presence on every digital street corner. So shout out to Mark Zuckerberg for the metaverse, right? Where it's now, technology is making it so that everything is easier to access. So if it's easier to access, then people like your street team, whether they're digital or physical, are going to be the main ones that take that message to the masses, because nothing is better than word of mouth promo. So when you go and you put up 1,000 posters in the city, it's so that people can talk about 1,000 posters being put up in the city.
Yeah.
That's going to spark or ignite the conversation that'll lead to more. So if all of your shit is together and all your business is handled, the more people that dig deeper, or the more people that go looking, or the more people that are interested will now become exposed to that product. And in an age where you have to do something, you have to be exposed. The rule of marketing is, right, you have to be exposed to something seven times
7 touches.
in order to become familiar with it, right? So let me give you guys a quick mathematical music lesson. Let's say you wanted to get 1 million streams on Spotify, right? And you wanted to run ads to get those 1 million streams. Well, we know that only 2 to 3% of your fan base is what your peak engagement is going to be.
Right.
So in order for you to get 1 million streams, that means you would have had to reach 50 million people with that particular song that you want 1 million streams on. However, those 50 million people have to get exposed to it 7 times, in theory.
Right.
Well, Facebook makes it very affordable to run ads, for example. So Facebook can help you reach 1,000 people for 25 cents. Meaning that to reach 50 million people is going to cost you about $3,125.
Right.
Right? Times 7 though.
Facts.
Right.
'Cause you gotta
So now your $23,000 ad campaign to yield you under $2,000 return payment for 1 million streams on Spotify doesn't sound like a mathematically sound business plan.
That's like a good investment.
So, Street Team is so much more than just, hey, look at me. It's making sure that when people are looking at you, hey, look at me. What is it that they see? What is it that they're able to find? How easily are they able to consume it? What are the different platforms? If your product is exclusive to one platform, how often are you addressing that fact? Are you sending people on a wild goose chase somewhere? Are you, do you care about any of those other platforms? Are you only worried about one versus the other? Because I think what people fail to realize is that in the music industry, much like in any industry in life, the product itself in a digital age is not what makes money. It's the information that's left behind from the consumption of the product that's worth money. And that's what we have to figure out on the Street Team ages. Those people that touch it on a digital age, how do we touch them in a physical aspect? So if we don't know who's listening to us digitally, then we equip our army with the wrong information.
Right.
And we just tell them, go out and pass out flyers to anybody, or go out and put posters up just anywhere, because we don't know who is listening. So therefore, we're potentially targeting the wrong people, if in fact anybody at all.
Is that your biggest challenge now, as far as like the transference from a physical street team to more digitals, like finding those people and see how it correlates and make it simpler?
I grew up spoiled because remember I told you I came in the MySpace days.
Right.
So the hardest thing about the digital is getting somebody else to understand or embrace timing and algorithm. Or consistency and algorithm. Two words that are the hardest to get people to embrace. So when it's talking about a transition from the streets to the digital age, for me it wasn't that difficult, only because I'm like a closet nerd.
Right.
So I take pride in figuring it out. You know what I mean? And I want to see it through. So if I have an artist that has a song and I don't want to wait on a cover, how can I get a cover right now? You know what I mean? Like, how do I register music right now? Why do I gotta keep waiting for somebody else? Why do I have to wait for the distributor to give me this answer? How do I do it myself?
Right.
And I think those are the things that may be missing on a lot of people's teams. And having street team members around, it births that.
Right.
Having creative people around, people that might not necessarily be executives in the industry, but having them around to contribute that spark of creativity to help you think outside the box. So a street team isn't just a group of individuals that help spread the word, but they're a group of individuals that help birth the brand and then deliver it to the masses. So I think it's just much more than a laborer aspect.